Hello friends, Al Iverson here. It's time for another video. Today I'm talking about DMARC yet again. From DMARCbis to DMARC, let's talk spec updates and new RFCs. For the past couple of years, the email authentication community has been talking about DMARCbis. But that name is now obsolete as the updates to the DMARC specifications previously encapsulated in the details of DMARCbis have now been published as three new separate and official RFC or request for comment internet specification documents. That's RFC 9989, which is the core updated DMARC specification, RFC 9990, which covers aggregate reporting in DMARC, and RFC 9991, which covers failure reporting in DMARC. Combined, these comprise the long-awaited update to RFC 7489, the original DMARC specification published way back in 2015. Overall, these updates to DMARC can be considered relatively minor, and most of what's new there is more a case of updating the documentation to reflect how email senders and receivers utilize DMARC out here in the real world. Let me walk you through what I think are the most significant changes. First, let's talk about trees. DNS tree walk support. Historically, DMARC depended on something called the public suffix list, or PSL, to determine the organizational domain during DMARC policy evaluation. This is how mailbox providers looking for DMARC policy settings in DNS would make the jump from a subdomain like email.example.com to the organizational domain level like example.com. The PSL, created by the Mozilla Foundation way back in 2007, was intended to be utilized by browsers to define domain boundaries related to cookies. It does important work, helping enforce cookie and privacy protection, defining security boundaries for web browsers. But it has some peculiarities that can sometimes make it an imperfect fit for use in email domain protection. The updated specifications introduce tree walking as a method for working your way up the DNS tree for a domain to look for the highest level of a domain for purposes of applying email authentication policy and confirming authentication alignment. Tree walking involves taking a host name or subdomain, removing one leftmost part from the name, and checking DNS at that new upper level. The updated specifications also introduce explicit DNS signaling around organizational boundaries through the PSD tag, allowing domains to declare themselves either as organizational domains by specifying PSD equals N in the DMARC record, or public suffix domains by specifying PSD equals Y. For most marketing and enterprise senders, this change won't amount to much, but it does improve support for more complex delegated subdomain and hosting environments, particularly in large enterprises, higher education, government, and managed multi-tenant infrastructures. For those with exceptionally complex infrastructure, note that the DNS tree walk process is limited to 8 queries to prevent denial of service-like impact to receivers performing DNS checks for purposes of verifying email authentication. The updated RFCs also remove several tags that either saw inconsistent adoption or caused confusion in real-world deployment: %, RI, and RF. The PCT or % tag was originally intended to support gradual rollout by allowing senders to apply policy to only a percentage of failing mail. In theory, setting % equals 10 meant only reject 10% of failing messages. In practice, implementation was inconsistent and often confusing. The updated RFCs remove % entirely and replace it with a simpler testing-oriented approach using the new T equals Y testing flag. The RI tag allowed senders to request aggregate reporting intervals. The RF tag attempted to specify failure report formatting. Neither tag was broadly supported, and now the updated RFCs effectively acknowledge this by eliminating them entirely. One of the 3 new RFCs, RFC 9991, focuses specifically on DMARC failure reporting. These reports can contain portions of message headers and content intended to help diagnose authentication failures. In practice, that also means that they can expose personally identifiable information, or PII, and other sensitive data. As privacy concerns have increased over the years, particularly post GDPR, many mailbox providers either heavily redacted these reports or stopped sending them entirely. The updated failure reporting RFC essentially acknowledges this reality directly, recognizing how the email ecosystem already operates. While the updated RFC doesn't explicitly say, don't send failure reports, I consider this a sort of a soft form of deprecation when it comes to failure reporting. Aggregate reporting, the core fundamental reporting of DMARC, thankfully doesn't change. And DMARC's mission doesn't change either. It continues to be a valuable tool to help protect your email domains against phishing and spoofing. We continue on down the path started way back in 2015 with RFC 7489, with adoption boosts driven by Google and Yahoo sender requirements from 2023, Microsoft sender requirements from 2025, and now with these new RFCs documenting the latest evolution of domain protection. And Valamail is here and ready to help you make sense of it all. Don't forget to head on over to valamail.com when you're ready to embark upon your DMARC journey. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.